the more you enable AI to stimulate performance, the more illusionary your control is. You want conversions, you lose control.
This is a big deal right now. Creative is creating the targeting, like on all of our campaigns with Andromeda. And if you're really super high on brand, this probably isn't something that you want to have done, but... Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. This is your host, Ralph Burns, founder and CEO of Tier 11, alongside my amazing, very well-dressed co-host,
Lauren E. Petrulo from Magnus Media. I'm like, well-dressed from the top up. I look like I'm going to testify in DC, but from the bottom down, I was like, hold on. Now I got to show my mullet of an outfit.
Yeah, right. I was like... That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it right there. So like when I first logged in, I was like, wow, it looks like you're going to testify before Congress. But in actuality, it's like the skirt and the pink shoes or red shoes?
Oh, they're hot pink, duh. And it's hot like pink, bright blue shorts. And I mean, I'm professionally fun. Oh, fun was there saying that. Like, how do you dress? Professionally fun.
Your business on top, party on the bottom, really.
And a mullet.
What's going on here? Yeah, and a mullet. It's like you're like a mullet, exactly. All right, well, today, we're going to... Is there any way to transition using mullet as a verb? Anyway, we're mulletizing meta ads right now with this creative...
I'm going to mull it over that right now.
Mull it over. Yeah, let's mull it over. So one of the shows that we just recently did, one of our more popular shows, is screen share that we did with your launch for your webinar. And then we went in depth on this new Advantage Plus creative image generator. I have to keep looking down at my notes because it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Advantage Plus creative image generator.
Woof.
Anyway, that's it. It's a mouthful. If you haven't seen that episode, we'll leave that link in the show notes here, and definitely watch it over on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You realize we have 6,000 subscribers?
I saw that yesterday. I got very excited.
We just keep adding more and more subscribers. So anyway, if you're not a subscriber of the show, like we do a lot of screen shares here, and it's not just John Moran. Now it's like, we're doing so much more with obviously this meta creative diversifications thing. Check it out over at perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. Go there. It'll prompt you to subscribe, and definitely subscribe. So anyway, so you don't miss a thing here. But yeah, we'll leave links in the show notes for that. But a lot of reaction on that one because of what it created for you. And I think it kind of blew away some of the team members here inside Tier 11. I know they have been trying to use it, and there's some pitfalls to it. Not trying to use it. They're using it, but there's some challenges with it. So maybe some of the learnings, and then we can do another follow-up episode to go through like your actual creation. Maybe we'll do a live walkthrough of your next webinar and see exactly how it all works here. So this is an interesting case because you're doing this for your own brand. All right. Mm-hmm. So we do this we use AI as a part of our creative, but it hasn't taken over creative. We still have a 12-person creative team. Like AI is not taking away any jobs here, but it does allow us to be more precise and also more productive. But the AI created ads, easy for me to say, sometimes do create some downstream effects with clients. So anyway, pros and cons of using this Advantage Plus creative image generator, on what your sort of learnings were from the webinar. So give us maybe a high level overview. And like I said, we'll do a follow-up episode of this with a screen share. So what are your thoughts?
AI is not replacing jobs. If anything, AI has made us more jobs. We've done more and have a higher caliber and quality, and as well as greater efficiency. So yes, more jobs. No to replacement. I'd say what's interesting here of like in the replacement aspect, because Meta AI is replacing additional needs for creatives. So you have to have your seed creative to start with, which we had like the dating profile version where we're trying to show, like we like the liquid glass look, for example. And so when we had that base creative, we were able to have Meta make iterations of it. And with their AI flexible format, it can expand the images to fit the placement that we want. But what happens when you're replacing a human with AI? Like, granted, there's some small manipulations, human in the loop, but not to the extent the way that our studio does it and the way that you have your 12-person team. that does the creative. It's a stepping stone, but I think we're not even crawling yet with what will be possible in the near future. But going back to when AI is only involved, the pitfalls that you alluded to were you're really in this predicament where the more you allow or enable AI, and not just generative AI, where we're talking about copy and image creation, but programmatic AI, which is all about Andromeda, the more you enable AI to stimulate performance, the more illusionary your control is and becomes. And what I mean by that is we had the brand-enabled AI versus the product one. So there's two different versions of AI image generation, ones that's on brand and ones that's completely off brand and can have what I call cuckoo crazy variations, because Meta demands 25% difference in your ad for it to be considered a unique ad. Otherwise, you're just competing against itself. And copy is never going to be included in that, which is why you're allowed to do text headlines, primary text and description changes without it counting as a new ad. It's just enrolled in that same ad. So when we had AI only, we lost a lot of control in the brand and a lot of control in the placement. And some of the things that we noticed was, while we have AI flexible format, which can expand the image or compress it to the size of the placement, Meta's doing just so much dang testing that we were seeing, Audience Network, the 1200 by 628 images show up in Instagram feed, which should be a 4x5 or 1080 by 1080, like that 1x1. And these ratios, by the way, like they're just the different size images that you can have setting up for your ad. One version is you do the or like the vertical version, the 1080 across by 1920 down. If you were to make one single creative, 9 by 16, you always make the 9 by 16 inside the safe zone, because when Meta crops it, you're always able to fit your whole message in whatever placement that they're doing. So that's option one that you can do. Create a creative 9 by 16 inside the safe zone, so that no matter what placement you go to, you're not having like your head get chopped off or the words missing. Or the more traditional way is you have your creative and then you make your size duration. Here's what it looks like on a 1x1. Here's what it looks like on the 1200 by 628, whatever those numbers are. I go by pixel size minimum. And so you make those different placements and then you have this control, right? So coming up to this, I described that the more you enable AI, the more illusionary your control actually is. Because I have seen Meta take our creative. We did both versions, the 9 by 16 in safe zone and the variations for the different sizes. And we saw them just say, F it. You want conversions, you lose control. So then they were testing audience network size in my Instagram feed. They were testing compressed squares in my stories. So the way we were seeing it, I was like, this is not on brand. This is not showing the level of creative and quality that I would want representing my company. And then they were introducing other versions that are close to what we created, but not as good from our human-led creative. So that's where what I invite anyone that's following along and doing this is AI is great, but it's going to default to conversion, not to control. And so it's lying to you in a lot of ways behind the guise of I'm testing. And throughout, like we would see so many different things that went against the parameters we had put up in Meta, but with the intention of leading to a better conversion. So then it's like, Ralph, you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want control or do you want conversions? And it's back to Oren Clapp's episode that we just recorded of like, you have to make an honest choice. Which do you care about more?
Yeah. I think a lot of brands are going to have a challenge with this. I mean, if they're doing this on their own and there's no human in the middle. So this was actually done with a human in the middle, but then these tests were being done without really your control and your authority.
Or consent. And sometimes you have
and they were off brand. So let's just make sure we understand this. So think about like you're watching something on a reel. Okay, that's a 9 by 16. Okay, and like that video, for example, they were putting like a 1x1 static image in that 9 by 16 under the guise of we're testing to get you more conversions. Now, whether or not that gets you more conversions or not is subject to debate. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Like, I'm not going to say either way. My sense is that it probably wouldn't, but It's off
disagree. I
brand,
think
and
my
it looks
assumption is it
messy.
would. My assumption is
Well,
it would, but we didn't give
okay,
enough time. I think it takes, you said like 4 to 6 weeks. For me,
right.
it's just a data drought. If you do not have enough data, and so it has to do it like,
Or time. If you don't have
or
enough
time,
time, yeah.
which is often where you get the data. So it's like the number of impressions. You can accelerate that time model, collapse it by spending more. Right.
Mhm.
So I think actually Molly Pittman was the person I learned this from, where she would take like $2,000 a day budget just to accelerate out of that learning phase and then scale it back down to your actual budget you want, because
Yeah.
you can collapse
Yeah.
the time it takes to escape learning phase.
Oh my gosh,
But I know
super
like
aggressive with ad budgets always.
in the beginning,
When we would
yeah,
work on accounts, she's like, let's just start with 1,000 a day. I'm like, what? No, I wanted to start with 100. She's like, no, let's go for it.
oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of a
So
cool way of doing it. But yeah,
yeah,
like, if you're compressed by time, you had a 3-day time frame in order to get
exactly.
running. Right.
And finish.
Yeah.
It's not even just to get up and running. Like it was a controlled time period of flash sale. This wasn't a seasonal campaign. It wasn't business as usual. We do business as usual BAU or sandbox. So sandbox for us, like the way we use our naming convention and all, I'll launch the next ones live on the podcast, because this is a webinar I would like to do every single month. So it'll be an evergreen offer on behalf of myself and Mongoose Media. It's still going to be a seasonal campaign. And so I am eliminating the opportunity for me to get out of that learning phase. Now, I like thinking out loud now. I mean, well, I could just have it. If I know it's going to be evergreen, I can have a smaller daily budget of like $20 to $50 a day. That's just business as usual, constantly promoting this webinar. I just know that if this were if this was a VSL, you can do that as a VSL. Hey, watch this recording in perpetuity. But because it's a live webinar where you have to book and reserve that time, we all know that your show up rate is so different depending on how early they sign up for the event. So if I start promoting our next webinar, which will be in November now, which is mid-October, the likelihood of everyone showing up is very low. So it's almost a
unless you have some kind of
wasted
pre-sell or a lead magnet that leads into it, or some piece of content to set the
ways
stage,
to
still,
keep them engaged. It's just a bigger marketing lift. But like, I mean, just again, talking out loud, like it would be interesting to see and combat the illusion of control in favor of a higher conversion likelihood. So it would be an interesting thing that I'll consider. And like, maybe when we launch it live, like I was going to launch it live with it, like program for the dates 3 days before, because if I do a webinar 3 days before, your likelihood of them showing up is much, much higher. Webinars just don't have high show up rates, especially in the season where everyone is shopping and trying to hit their end of year goals. Sorry. Well, thank you everyone for letting me walk through that consideration to give you guys that feedback of a live testing. I'm like, how would I do it differently?
You're debating it right now, actually. I mean, this is fresh. So, I mean, the point is like, well, like I said, we'll leave links in the show notes for that show to show you exactly what we did here. But there's trade-offs in life. So if you are going to allow the algorithm to do its AI work, you might suffer from, like, I always just hate seeing ads that don't fit the format.
Oh,
they were,
it's an ad.
Like, I know,
you skip it.
It bothers me. But does it convert better? If Meta says that it does, probably it does. So this is another trade-off. It's like, what do you want? Do you want heavier on brand? Or do you want better conversions?
Yeah. Do you want control or do you want conversions?
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of beauty brands. Like, they're like brand is first. So it's like something like this is an interesting tool, but I mean, you are going to lose control of it because you are letting the algorithm do the work. So it's a couple.
But I think there's a component, Ralph. You're going to lose control now, but I think the reality is this is a precursor to losing control completely later. I think this has been consistent with what Mark Zuckerberg has said and what other ad networks have really talked about, is just like, get the decision making out of their hands. Trust our ad networks to do what we've spent billions of dollars building, and spend time on creating your offer and then building your brand. And I think like what I'm experiencing now, and I'm seeing, it's almost like violating feelings is the closest I can explain to how I see when like I'm using an ad and we're targeting something in Farsi, and someone who doesn't have Farsi enabled on their phone are still seeing these Farsi ads. And I'm like, oh, or if you're doing a brick and mortar campaign in a very specific region, and then people outside of that 10-mile radius are getting access to your ads, like there's these things that are, again, it like feels like you're violating the framework I said of where and how I want the ads to be portrayed and displayed. And like we can do stuff in ad account settings and all that stuff, but it's still out of our hands because we don't have as much control as we used to, but in favor of conversions. And I think it's just like, this is where it's going to go. So while you have people that are like, I'm going to fight for brand now, there is a potential that like they'll have influence as Meta continues to develop their product, and same for other ad networks. It's just that for me, it's like, this is where it's going. Shopify has done that with the Shop Pay ads. That episode we did with Andres when they did the Winter 25 launch in like January was, oh my God, that was one of the best because Shop Pay is like, you have no decision. Tell us how much you want to spend, what your ROAS is and your target cost per customer. And then what happens is everyone is just going to say, you want to control your brand, start with your website, start with your offer. And then just know that like, there's two things that are going to come down to it. You have to look at your website, and say that everything that's on your website, everything that's published is fair game. And it's not just your website, it's your Instagram profile, because that's still your Instagram website of your site, your Facebook profile for your brand. Everything that's on there is going to be fair game. So you need to make sure that at its core, everything on your site is fair game. And then everything on your site is updated. And where I saw this was in my webinar ads, there's this extension called site links. And you can control which site links you want, but Meta's going to give the recommendation. So they were pulling blog articles, they were pulling services page, which allowed me to take more real estate on the feed. But it, again, took out the control of what I want, but it enhanced what was available.
Right. And those were ads that you edited that copy, or you just let them, like we'll do the screen share obviously again on this and get more. But you let Meta write the copy. Is that what you're saying? Or you still exerted copy control over the ads? Because when we were doing the walkthrough in the episode, you were rewriting them, but you were also giving prompts to get them to rewrite them and also redo the images.
It's a combination. Like we start with our seed copy, we start with our seed creative, and then I'm like, doors open, wide open to receive the conversions. F the control, I don't care, because it's going to lead to a higher likelihood of conversion. Yes, please. But when we'll do a screen share, I'll show what I did, and then I'll show a walkthrough of how I'm going to relaunch it differently next time. Like my cost per lead was like $30. That's totally not what my target was at all. That's like almost 4 or 5 times of what I was willing to pay. However, I will say that the webinar, despite having the fewer number of signups, was actually more successful from strategy sessions and potential customers in a quality standpoint than I could have anticipated from even my forecasted of I wanted 300 signups. We had 74, 75, and I had more strategy sessions and more potential prospects than what I had forecasted with 300 people signing up. So at the end of the day, I had a higher quality, full disclosure, cool. Even though my cost per lead was $30 and you're like, what? I know. That was a lot.
Well, I mean, we talk about it all the time here. It's like the cost per lead is relative to the quality of that lead. So, I mean, the interesting part of this is that you did this in a 3-day time frame. We've talked about this many times with our creative diversification strategy. Is typically it's 30 plus creatives in most cases, and it's 4 to 6 weeks. Like the first couple of weeks are kind of ugly. And John and I have gone on this show many, many times to do screen shares through this whole thing, and maybe start off with a set amount of creative and then add them over time. But you're adding 5 or 6 or 7 new creatives every single week into this engine, and it's figuring it out over a 4 to 6 week time frame because the AI does take time to take effect. Now, for you did it in 3 days. You compressed it in 3 days, and it still worked out. You got higher quality leads than you would have. You paid more for those leads, but still, it seems like the algorithm is actually doing what it can do in the time frame that you're allotting it. Yeah, which is solid. I mean, I'm interpreting your results for you, but
no, I'm like, did I pay more than what I did? I paid less for the quality leads though, in like the actual outcome that I wanted. I paid more for the top of funnel subscriber acquisition, but I paid less for the quality lead. And again, it takes one signing to be like a 200x ROAS on that type of campaign. I only spent $2,000. And so for a B2B business service provider where, our packages start at thousands of dollars per month. And what was nice was we have a downsell because we're launching marketing rehab where we have like a 1 hour a week group coaching format. So we have a 6-week, that's what we were selling in the webinar, right? The VIP access gave to this like $197 to get an hour with me for 6 weeks to see if we can be hyper specific, laser focused in a group coaching format. And so even from those that wouldn't have been agency qualified because they're not in a place where they want to spend thousands of dollars a month for my brain and my team's hands, for my brain in a group format, it was a high quality. So I'm just debating all that and interpreting what you're saying is right.
Super interesting. This has been great. Sort of like a quick breakdown here. Any final words before I know you have to go on stage and speak somewhere? Before Congress. Say, Congressman, I do not recall. That's what you need to say when you're speaking.
Okay.
Anyway,
I do not recall. I do not recall any other pieces that I would say, but I'm enjoying it and I'm excited to share it live. If this is something you guys want or have any specific questions, like please write the questions on the YouTube channel. And when we do the live recording, like I'll screen share everything I can. But if there's questions you have, just drop them in and Ralph will make sure that we cover them.
Yeah, 100%. This is a big deal right now. Like creative is creating the targeting. Like on all of our campaigns that we're using creative diversification on with Andromeda, we're obviously using Tier 11 Data Suite, which gets, the actual conversion that you're trying for, whether it's a new customer or returning customer. All of this together, it really is the creative, and it's more creative, the better, and diverse creative. And that's the key to this whole thing. And, this AI tool inside the ads manager is pretty badass. Although, like we said, you give up a little bit of control here. And if you're really super high on brand, this probably isn't something that you want to have done. But do you want conversions? Because
what do you want? The honest
to work
choice.
Pretty well. Yeah. Or in Claf, like control or more of the thing. So anyway, all right. Well, we will have a follow-up episode here on this fabulous podcast. And of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you think of these types of series because we're sort of building this as we go along here. And, an actual live build for the next webinar, I think would be really, really cool. So from what I understand, the ones that I've seen, this is already installed in most ad accounts. What's your experience been?
Yeah, I haven't not seen it available. I can't speak to the different regions because it might become a regional specific. I know that they'll roll things out typically in the Western Hemisphere. But yeah, it's pretty much, as everything I've read about it, available. And if it's not now, it will be very soon because it's absolutely the way it's going. Yeah. So for now, you get to choose the AI enablements. But my assumption is, not for much longer.
Yep. All right. Well, make sure that you do subscribe over on our YouTube channel, perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. And of course, if you want Tier 11's help for anything having to do with creative diversification, because this is our show after all, you can get that over at tier11.com/apply. So on behalf of my amazing co-host, Lauren E. Petrullo.
Ciao.
Good luck before Congress. Till next show.
Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.